This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Most singing groups require a couple of things. You have to be able to read sheet music, for one, and you have to prove your chops by auditioning. Not so for Sacred Harp. It's an a cappella singing tradition characterized by a couple of things. You read shape notes instead of regular music, and anyone is welcome, even if, like me, your pitch is far from perfect. American Sacred Harp music has its roots in 18th century New England. Most songs have Christian themes, so it might be heresy for me to say that Sacred Harp has something of a cult following today. People love it. This weekend, the 47th annual New England Sacred Harp Singing Convention comes to Burlington. So this hour, we're going to be learning about and celebrating this tradition ourselves. I'm joined by a group of singers who will perform for us throughout the hour. And here with me, we have Anya Skibbe, a convention organizer. Anya, welcome to Vermont Edition.
Thanks for having us.
And Anna Mays is a Burlington Sacred Harp singer and organizer. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we don't have our phone lines open today, but if you have a story to share about Sacred Harp singing, maybe it's something that you love doing in your community, you can email us throughout this hour at vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. So Anna, to be clear, the harp we are talking about is not an actual harp, right?
No, that is one of the most common questions we get. The harp refers to the Sacred Harp, this tune book that we have sung from. This is a hymnal that has been in continuous use since its first publication in 1844. Wow. And it has gone through, as of last year, 4 revisions. And this past September, a couple weeks ago, the newest 5th revision has been released. And I think we think of Sacred Harp singing as, this wonderful ongoing tradition. And in many ways, it's been really sustained because of this book, the Sacred Harp book. So that's why we call it Sacred Harp singing. And it also refers to the human voice. Originally, that harp was the vocal cords that we all have, sort of this natural gift that we've been given, this instrument that goes with us anywhere. So everyone and anyone can do it.
So everybody here has their book with them today, either the older maroon version, this brand new green version, which I know everyone's very excited about in the Sacred Harp community, right, Anya?
This is the first day that many of us have seen it because it was just released a couple of weeks ago, and it's only just reached our hands today. So it's a very important day because what we've known as the Red Book is no longer read, but still called the Sacred Harp. And the same misunderstandings will happen when people who have never sung this before come and they say, "Where are the harps?"
So Anya, you describe yourself, your younger self, as a very serious musician. Yeah. How did you find your way into the world of Sacred Harp and this particular music tradition?
Yeah, good question. I think everybody has different stories of how they ended up here, but I think mine actually is somewhat common with folks who come to this singing in my 20s, in my case. I think there are a lot of folks who were musicians in other ways. I was a saxophone performance major in college. I was a serious musician growing up and not a singer. But when I was transitioning away from that, doing different things, it left a hole in my life. And when I was introduced to this music by then a classmate where I went to school in North Carolina, I just really liked it. And once I got more and more into this, it felt like I had found a secret world. It has some similarities where you're making harmony with this big group. You can sort of feel the vibrations through your body. You're with all these people for a specific reason, which felt in some ways similar to what I was familiar with before.
And Anna, what is your Sacred Harp origin story?
Yeah, it's interesting. Very, similar. I would say, similar to Anya. Yeah, I also have a classical background. I played double bass for many years and was really undecided between going to conservatory or liberal arts college. I did a year of conservatory, decided I really wanted to go to liberal arts school, and ended up basically giving up my instrument of double bass and looking for something to fill that void, that musical void. And I found singing, actually in college, although I was exposed to it a lot kind of as a kid. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and there was a lot of overlap with Quakers who sing Sacred Harp. And I grew up in a Quaker community where a lot of folks would, use these beautiful historic wooden meeting houses to be able to gather and sing Sacred Harp. And it was, I think, originally, I have to say, I'll be very honest, and if anyone out there is listening and you're a musician and you come hear us, I was not liking it at first.
It's very different from what we're used to.
It's hard on the ears if you're a classical musician.
Why? What's hard on the ears about it? Because I've listened and I love it, but I am no musician.
Well, we love to have everyone join from any musical background, and that means oftentimes we're not exactly in tune.
And everyone sings loud.
We all sing very loudly. We may not always listen to other singers as much, but it's sort of a very rustic kind of like chest voice sound. So not what a choral or classically trained singer would be taught to sing like.
Right, which makes sense because this kind of music is in the moment. We do not rehearse. We do not perform. When we sing in what's called the hollow square. The middle of the square is hollow, and then everybody's sitting facing each other. There's 4 parts, and we're just singing for each other. We actually don't even leave a space for an audience. There's no rehearsal. So it is in the moment. It's not rehearsed like classical music where you're rehearsing for hours and hours and years. We sing the song, and if it goes terribly, well, we're about to sing a different song. It's fine. People can practice on their own if they want to, but we just do it because it's really fun. It's joyful. We do it together, and it's not a performance style of music. It's a participatory.
Right. Yeah. And there's actually an expression down south that says that a Sacred Harp singer won't cross the street to listen to this music, but we will travel hundreds of miles to sing it. And that's really true.
Okay, so emphasis on singing, not performing.
Exactly.
This is, demonstration singings like we're about to do are normal, but this is not the full tradition. This is not.
Yeah, before you two make your way over into your seats with the group, I do want to emphasize that point that you're making, Anya, that this isn't quite how Sacred Harp singing normally would look or sound. We have a small group here with us today who has kindly taken some time to help our listeners understand what Sacred Harp music is, but usually there's lots more people than the 9 who will be singing today. Is that right?
Well, it kind of depends. I often, it can be hard to sort of tell people who don't know about this music that it's not a choir.
Right.
We don't know who's going to show up. So sometimes we have a monthly singing in Montpelier, for example. Sometimes it's this many people. Sometimes it's 5 times this many people because it's more like a pickup basketball game or something, or like a trad music
jam
session at a pub. Everybody's welcome, and you never really know who's coming. There's no RSVP list. What we are always hoping for is that we can cover all of the parts, but there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes we're like, you won't believe how many people came to our singing. Who knows why? Maybe it's because it was raining and people wanted to do something indoors. Who knows? But that's part of the sort of in the moment. It's just who shows up. This is a specifically small group, and somewhat completely handpicked to have people who know these songs and sound pretty good together, which is not how we usually do it. Usually it doesn't matter.
Well, I'll invite you two to go over to your other seats. They're going to join the rest of the singers: Colleen Hayes, Sarah Galper Maika, Jim, Linda, and Dan Coppick, Nicandra Galper, and Sage Chase-Dempsey. They're going to be singing a song called Marlborough from 1793. This music is by Abraham Wood, and the poetry is by Isaac Watts. That was the song Marlboro, and it was written in 1793. I'll invite Anya and Anna to come back over. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we will hear a little bit more about what it feels like to sing with a group of Sacred Harp singers. That's the conversation we are having today ahead of a big Sacred Harp convention that will be in Burlington this weekend. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. This hour, we are learning about and celebrating Sacred Harp music. It's a folk and gospel singing tradition that started to grow roots in America in the late 1700s. Now there are many Sacred Harp singing groups all around the country, but particularly concentrated in New England and the South. Our guests this hour are Anya Skibbe, an organizer for the New England Sacred Harp Singing Convention, which starts tomorrow in Burlington, and the Burlington-based Sacred Harp singer and organizer Anna Mays. We also have a group of singers with us today: Colleen Hayes, Galper Maika, Jim, Linda, and Dan Coppick, Nicandra Galper, and Sage Chase-Dempsey. And you can join our conversation as well by email. If you have a story to share about Sacred Harp singing in your community, you can email Vermont Edition at vermontpublic.org. Anna, you just came over after singing Looking Giddy. I don't know if it was the song or this new songbook, which I know means a lot to Sacred Harp singers. What was that feeling you were feeling?
Yeah, so I think for many years, I think it's been a 6-year process. There has been a committee in the South who has been revising this book and working to incorporate basically new songs that reflect our kind of living tradition, as well as kind of curate some of the older ones. And this is the first time I have been able to sing out of this new book. Sarah brought it back for me from Atlanta a couple weeks ago after the release, and there was a big singing that launched this new book, and it's just, a really emotional process to be singing out of it.
Oh.
So.
Well, it's great to see the smile on your face after that. And I should also mention that we are capturing some video of the singing today, so you'll be able to see that on vermontpublic.org and our social media channels soon after today's show. Anya, I'm learning there are a couple peculiarities, let's say, about Sacred Harp singing that's different than maybe a choir that somebody might be familiar with who's listening right now. For one, there is no clapping, which I just learned after I clapped by myself after that performance.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate that. We understand. Usually there's no clapping. I would say the exception to that is if there's like small children leading a song. So one thing we're missing from this studio experience is that this is a very democratic style. It's not like a choir where there's a conductor who is in front and keeping everybody together and making the decisions in rehearsal. This is a different thing where really we take turns. So for example, at this convention this weekend or in a regular singing, we either, if it's a small enough group, we will go around the room and it's your turn and then it's your turn and then it's your turn. And you pick a song and you lead it at the pace that you want and you choose the verses you want. And if you want to, you can do something really off the wall, like say, sing this part quietly. Or something. Whoa. So very different from a choir. It's a part of what we do. So there's no clapping because everybody is just as involved as everybody else. Sometimes you'll hear, I'd say like the most wild people get is that they'll say, good. Good.
Yeah, it feels very Puritan.
Yes. And I don't know how everybody else would describe it, but I think it's just, we're all just as important as everybody else. So, it right now may be a little different because there are new compositions from new composers. So, somebody might stand up and lead a song that they wrote and nobody has heard yet. So I would imagine there's clapping in that case. But in most cases, like I'm leading 162 today, but you led 162 last month and you led 162 last month. So it's not like anybody's doing anything that anybody else didn't do. When small children get up and lead in front of the group, there's often clapping because, it's kind of
'Cause
scary.
it's so cute,
Everybody's
too.
looking at them, and it takes some bravery.
Yeah, how could you not clap for that?
And they're cute.
And the way that you keep time
Yes.
is unique as well. Anna, can you describe that for folks who are just listening and aren't seeing this too?
Yeah, so if you were to come across a group of Sacred Harp singers singing, you would notice that most of us are beating time with our dominant hand, just going kind of up and down if it's a song in 2/4, or out, down, and up if it's a 3/4 song.
Kind of like a chopping motion.
Kind of looks like you're chopping, yes. It's very different from a choral conductor leading. We don't conduct, we beat time, and that's, again, as Anya was saying, part of that democratic piece of the singing where we're all keeping time together. We're all charged with keeping us on the same track of not speeding up, not slowing down, and the beating of time actually serves a really important role musically. It helps us know where we are in a measure, and it was used along with the shape notation to be able to help people learn to sight read music very quickly. So if you're, and this just happened last night, we had a singing in Burlington where we were singing a new song that doesn't get sung very much there, and I was losing my place in the measure. But because you're beating time, you always know where the start of the measure is, and that helps you get back on track when you lose yourself in the music. But it's something that we really encourage folks to do, especially new folks, because it helps you learn the music faster. And then when you get up and stand up, you're ready to lead. It's not such a big transition to go from beating time in your seat to standing up and leading a song. Just a word about leading, we encourage anyone who calls a song to get up in the center and basically lead that song so that we all know kind of when the entrances come in. It's again, not a choral director style of conducting, but it's just really keeping us together. But the best part about leading is that it sounds amazing in the center of that hollow square. That's kind of the best seat of the house when you're listening. And we always encourage new folks, even if they're not quite ready to take that step to get up and lead, but to come and stand in the center with a leader so that they can sort of hear what it sounds like and be surrounded by that sound.
Yeah, and I can imagine keeping time in that way physically with your hand going up and down and then singing as loud as you can. Sometimes it's a very physical, visceral feeling. Anya.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what I liked so much early 12, 13 years ago when I started singing, but is still part of what I love. Like when the song is a good key and everybody's sounding good, like you'll look around and people are closing their eyes, people cry. It's very normal. I mean, for some people, this is their worship. And for other people, this is, I don't know. For me, I feel like it's my fun and my joy and my friends. And it feels good in your body, and it's like a visceral thing, especially if it's a big group. If you're in the center somewhere, it's like buzzing through your body. I know people who wear like a smartwatch will often get like decibel alerts where they're like, you need to put in earplugs wherever you are is really loud, because we're just living in the moment really loudly.
Yeah. Well, let's hear some more music. We'll do two songs back to back next. The first one is I Do Maya. Is there anything either of you would like to say about that song before we dive in? We'll do I Do Maya followed by a song called Edom.
Yeah, this is a very popular song in Vermont, I would say. All around the world, this book is sung, but the sort of like the norms in each singing are different, and this tends to be a popular song in this state. This was in a different book before this one, but the song was written by Ananias Davison in 1816.
Wow.
And the poetry, which is how we refer to the text, was from Charles Wesley. You see a lot of his text throughout. And speaking of beating, it's a song in 3/4. So if you want to kind of beat along as you're listening, you'll be doing that out, down, and up motion.
Yeah, it's just like tapping your foot, but with your hand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have you two take your seats. We'll hear first I Do Maya, and then a song called Edom. That's from 1797. The music is by Alicia West with poetry by Isaac Watts. That was the song Edom from 1797. Our Sacred Harp singers are making their way back to the microphone. That was beautiful. I won't clap this time.
That's a pretty happy one. It's about blessings rather than death, which is rare.
Okay, yes, let's talk about the themes that come through in a lot of these songs. I was just following along in the songbook for this song Edom, and there's about a line about over the heavens he spreads his clouds and waters veil the sky, sending his showers of blessings down to cheer the plains. They're Christian themes, but you both have spoken about how you didn't get into Sacred Harp singing specifically because you wanted to sing Christian music, but because the style of singing, the camaraderie, the joy of it really spoke to you. Yeah. I wonder if you could speak to that a bit more, Anna. What is it ever hard to connect with songs that have particularly Christian themes?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question and something we get asked a lot. I think for each person, it's a very individual relationship with the poetry of the songs. But we should say that this is by no means just a Christian tradition. Its origins were Christian here in the kind of New England area, and it would be interesting to talk a little bit about kind of how it got started here. But I think it's people relate to the music very differently. You can be absolutely like believing the text that you're singing, or not at all. I think for me, it's been a really interesting kind of window into how people lived their lives in the 1800s, 1700s. And I've personally found it very meaningful to sort of have more of a reference perhaps to our mortality and to death. We sing a lot about death. And I think in a time when, we're not very comfortable as a culture here in the U.S. today talking about death and what comes next. And I think that, those who were writing these words early on, they were living in a very different time when children were lost in childbirth. You lost parents early and you were working very hard. There are a lot of songs about, rest, reaching the promised land. And I think that it's a nice reminder. For me personally, I relate to those words because I feel like it's a reminder to be kind of live as best we can in the short time we have here on this earth. And I think one of the things I've really enjoyed about Sacred Harp is it does kind of feel like a spiritual home for me. I think we have many folks that are coming from different backgrounds, either religious backgrounds or atheist, agnostic backgrounds. And I think they find this safe space in this music where it does have a lot of the components of what a church or a synagogue or a religious community might have in terms of just acceptance and kind of everyone supporting each other and sort of regular, you see each other at singings throughout the month, and when you travel, you see these same people. And there's, I would say, a general culture of just inclusivity and generosity that perhaps some folks might not have experienced in their more of sort of formally religious communities. And so we do have a lot of people who I think have left whatever maybe religion they grew up with and have, for whatever reason, and have found a home in Sacred Harp. I think people are just super kind and caring. I think we have a lot of traditions as part of this singing in terms of providing hospitality. Like when you go and travel, you will be housed at whatever singing you go to. We're going to be, hosting many singers this coming weekend, and we're trying to put them all up in local singers' homes. There's the culture of cooking lots of food for a singing convention. You will be fed. So if you're traveling, you should not have to pay for housing or food during the singings. And I think that people try to really be our best selves when we're singing with each other and treat each other, really well.
On that note of religion, I should also acknowledge that today's Yom Kippur. Anya, you and I were talking about that earlier. We both have Jewish backgrounds. And you were saying that this is still a place that you still very much feel at home, culturally, if not spiritually.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little confusing for my Jewish relatives, perhaps, but my mom comes to sing sometimes. It's very normal in the Northeast, at least, for Jews to be Sacred Harp singers. There's a lot of us, a lot. I think it's different everywhere you go, and like Anna said, it's different for every single person. I think you'll find more people for whom this music is worship in the South. There are families, they're 8th generation singers, and this is worship for them. And, they're no more welcome than anyone else, but it's serious. And I think for some people, everybody comes to it from a different place. I think this music is important to me, even though it's not my worship. But like Anna said, the historical context is important to me. And even there's brand new songs that are in here from living composers that we're friends with that are young. There are some very young composers in this new edition, but the text is old. We don't write new poetry. We write new songs.
Oh,
so
interesting.
the words are old. It would not fit this tradition to write new words. It's a thing. People compose a similar style of music with new words, but not this. So even these fresh, new, hip songs, they are old also. So it's interesting to me, I think maybe a little more academically. And yeah, I feel just as welcome. People ask, I've definitely been asked, especially when I'm elsewhere, like, so why do you like this if this is not your worship? But I have felt welcome. But I also know that, like so many communities in this country, we are flawed. It is this edition this year has the first Black composer ever published in this book. And there are people I know who have come to sing and did not feel welcome and did not find their home. So I think we would be remiss to say that everybody is welcome and everybody loves it and everybody stays, because that's not necessarily true. But I think you find surprising diversity. I think many people are surprised with the different backgrounds that people come to, the different religions, the different everything. There's a lot of LGBTQ composers in this new edition. This is the first edition, at least, that people who are out were published in. So there's a lot that should be happening that is happening, but we are a microcosm of everything else.
Always more, to do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that your openness about your own spiritual connections to this work too. I've been very excited to do this show and have this conversation, in part because just a couple weeks ago we got an email to the station from a listener who has been following the New York Times new newsletter called Believing, and wrote to us to say, there aren't many places in public media that are having conversations about about spiritual subjects, and said that they would be very grateful if we would start covering these things more regularly. And I think there are lots of different inroads into conversations around religion and spirituality, and this is one of them. Yeah. So we're going to take one more break here. When we come back, we are going to hear a little more music, a little more singing. And if you have a story to share about your own connection to Sacred Harp singing, or you have a question about it, you can't quite picture what's going on here, you can email Vermont Edition at vermontpublic.org. More music when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. If you're just joining us, we are learning about the art of Sacred Harp. It's a form of singing where people use shape notes to read music. They all sit together in a square, and it's a little different than your typical choir. Our guests are Anya Skibbe, an organizer for the 47th Annual New England Sacred Harp Singing Convention, which starts tomorrow in Burlington, and the Burlington-based Sacred Harp singer, Anya Hayes. Our group here today is going to now sing a new addition to the 2025 Sacred Harp songbook. This song is called Millbrook. The music is by Neely Bruce, who's a current professor at Wesleyan, and the poetry is by Charles Wesley. It dates back to 1745. That was the song Millbrook, a new addition to the 2025 songbook for the Sacred Harp. Music by Neely Bruce and poetry by Charles Wesley. All right, we have Anya Skibbe and Anya Hayes back with us. Talk to us a little bit about that song. How does that one make you feel?
I love that song. I didn't cry, but I could. I love this song. I mean, Neely Bruce is a living composer. Many of us have met him, know him. He's a really sweet man. This song is brand new to this book, so I think it is new to some of the singers in the room. Just maybe sung it a few times this morning before coming, which is appropriate. This is a sight reading tool. But this was also in the Shenandoah Harmony, the Beige book, which is a different book and is quite new in this tradition. And I think that's one of the reasons that this song gets me, because this book came out somewhat soon after I started singing, and the friends that I used to sing with in Asheville, where I started, like we got obsessed with this book, and we sang all the time. And some of my very first big singings, or singings that I traveled to, were from this book. So this just like, these were formative songs for me. And it's just, I also just think it's incredibly beautiful, and it was keyed well. So I thought it sounded really good too. And sometimes, I don't know, it's just like you feel it in your body and it comes out your eyeballs. I don't know.
Totally. I think a lot of us were waiting for this song to be in the new Sacred Harp,
Oh,
and
really?
we sort of felt confident that it would be. This is, I think, a song, like Anya was saying, that we all sang out of the Shenandoah. And
I think it's the most sung song from that book.
Yeah, I feel like even here in Vermont, before this new edition has come out, I think that song was popularized by even like Larry Gordon, and it's a song that just, I think, is in a lot of people's memory, and maybe it's familiar. But yeah, for me, I feel like there are some days when, you know, you've had a hard day and you come to your singing and you just like want to sing Millbrook or something slow and free,
beautiful.
where the poetry really matches the harmony and the music. Yeah.
Well, it would be remiss if we didn't dive a little deeper into the history of this music, both in the United States and then specifically in Vermont. But let's start a little broader here. Anya, I'll start with you. So this form was in New England and then made its way to the South and then back up. Is that right?
Yeah, so back in the day, round note music, as we say, you know, just if you picture piano music, it's all round notes. And what the notes mean is where they are on the staff. That existed, obviously, but this style of music was created, was invented, was popularized to teach people who didn't read music how to read and to read music. And that was mostly done through what were called singing schools, which were sometimes a week long and sometimes huge, hundreds and hundreds of people. And this was sort of like the event of the year. And for some people, it was the event of their lives. Like people would make eye contact across the square, and they would get married. And like making eyes at people across the square is like a very traditional part of this music. I mean, most of the time
These were like the most popular events in colonial America.
They were huge.
I mean, people would travel from like, you were basically living in your little town, and you would like travel a day to go to these huge conventions.
Yeah, it was like the event of your childhood maybe, or of your 20s. And it was perhaps the opportunity to meet people that you'd never met before. So this was a teaching tool. There's incredible pictures of just these huge, huge singing schools. And so that's sort of where it came from, and it went everywhere. And then it kind of died out in most places, you know, just like music changes over time. We started to lose this. And some of that is in recent memory, actually. As recently as like 60s, 70s, 80s, this music was not sung like it is now. And it really incubated in the South, the southern United States. People kept singing it. It's sung in some churches. It was sung in some families. And then it started to come back. And at least in Vermont, a lot of that was due to a name that many people have heard, Larry Gordon.
I'm glad you brought him up because I wanted to. He just recently passed
died.
about 4 years ago and was a pivotal figure in bringing this form of music to Vermont again. Anya, can you speak a little bit about him?
Yeah, so Larry Gordon was probably one of the best bass singers I have ever sung with. He used to sing with us a lot in the Burlington group. Sarah has studied a lot with him over the years. He ran the Village Harmony singing their summer camps and concerts, and I think has collectively he and some other key singers have probably taught more than thousands of young folks here in Vermont, and really helped reintroduce the shape note tradition up here. I'll just going back a little bit in time, I'll back up to say, so by the 1820s, we were talking about how this was such a popular tradition. What happened was there was this sort of better music movement that came over from Europe, where people wanted congregational singing to be more like kind of a choir, and they needed people to be singing sort of more in tune, and they wanted to add an organ and be just like very formal and more kind of trained in the churches. And so there were musical reformers like Lowell Mason who started talking about shape note singing, Sacred Harp, as being too like rustic and kind of old-fashioned and vulgar even. And
it didn't just die out; it was squashed out.
It was really chased out of New England, and it really traveled south and west with the kind of frontier, and then really I think a lot of the culture in the South sort of embraced this style of singing where you didn't need to have any musical education. You were able to just kind of, if you can learn these 4 shapes, you can learn to sing any song in the book. And it really was maintained in these sort of 2 areas in Alabama and Georgia where it survived as it died out everywhere else in New England. And I think we can attribute it to a number of scholars and musicians, including Alan Lomax, who was an ethnomusicologist in the 20s and 30s, who went down and did a lot of field recordings that were then brought up and shared with the Congress Library of Congress, and he, had radio shows and slowly started to become reintroduced. And I think Neely Bruce at Wesleyan was one of the professors who started teaching about this tradition in his musicology classes, and there were others who really, Hugh McGraw was a really important Southern singer who did a lot of that bridge building between North and South. He helped to organize one of the first, they called it the Alabama Bus, that brought up all these singers from Alabama and Georgia to the first New England Convention that was held in 1976 in Connecticut. And it was this really special thing where Southerners were acknowledging this sort of revival of a tradition that they had been the sort of maintainers of, and they were coming to sort of teach us about this tradition that they had maintained, but also bringing it back to sort of the birthplace where it had started. And that was the beginning of what we call sort of the Renaissance or the revival of Sacred Harp in the 70s that's really continued to this day and is just now, I think, spread all over the country and the world even. If you go to any major city across the U.S., you will find a group of Sacred Harp singers. Often when I travel for work, that's the first thing I'll do, is I'll go and see who's the contact person in Chicago or and then
major cities, but also not so major.
abroad.
Like there's a group at Bread and Puppet. I wouldn't call that a major city or Derby line.
Yeah.
So big cities, small places, this stuff is
anywhere.
everywhere.
It's seeped into the countryside. I think especially bringing it back to Vermont, I think especially here, we've had a very kind of unique relationship with Sacred Harp, both because of Larry Gordon as well as the Bread and Puppet community. They do regular singings there, often with printed music from the Sacred Harp so that everyone can have a copy even when there are lots and lots of people. And so I think a lot of folks here in Vermont have been exposed to Sacred Harp singing in these more maybe folk contexts, which is really interesting because I think it makes them then receptive to singing, to maybe traveling farther or singing out of the book.
Yeah.
And I also know some people were introduced to it from the 2003 movie Cold Mountain, in which there is a scene with a lot of eye contact, as you were saying, Anya, between Jude Law and Nicole Kidman, who looks stunning.
Very traditional. Cold Mountain was definitely a part of this renaissance. And it's interesting, you can find on YouTube these videos of the taping of the music. And we know those singers.
Oh, wow. Those are singers
we know them. They're just regular singers, and they sound great. And those isn't Idumea in there?
I think Idumea, what we just sung earlier, is in there.
That's one of the reasons that song was
popular.
So popular. For many people, that's the only song that they know.
Well, folks have the opportunity to learn more about Sacred Harp this weekend at the Sacred Harp Convention. Anna, can you tell us more about it?
Yes, please do come. This is such an opportunity to get to sing with singers from across the Northeast and beyond. We would love to welcome you to come to any of our regular local singings, and you can find us on Facebook. Actually, I think is probably the best place. Look for us at Sacred Harp Community of Vermont, and you'll get a list of all of the local singings throughout Vermont. But this weekend is really special. We're expecting probably we're maybe 200 people even. And it's going to be just a really rare chance to hear some of these songs in a beautiful venue with voices that are just really experienced singers. And I think one of the things that struck me in my early years singing was listening to some of these older recordings. There's actually a very different sound when you go to the South and someone's recorded traditional Southern singers singing. And I think what's going to be special about this weekend is we have a lot of those singers coming to sing with us. And so that's going to be, influencing us in terms of feeling some musical accent with how we're singing the songs. And it's just going to be a really exciting and fun space. So that's at City Hall, Contois Auditorium in downtown Burlington. And it will be from registration opens at 9, both Saturday and Sunday. And we'll sing probably till about 3:30 or 4 each day. So please do stop by. You don't need to register. You don't need to pay. Just come by. We'll feed you. If you come around the noontime meal, we'll give you food. And we'll give you a book to sing out of.
A couple notes. So Sage is the chair and wanted me to make sure to say, we are asking people to COVID test before you come in. So if you test at home, take a picture and we'll take that. We also have tests there, but we don't want people to be surprised by that. We also, one of the fun things, because this edition just came out, there's going to be 2 people from the revision committee who made this revision happen, who are going to be there, and they're going to do a little session on Saturday. And Friday night, there is a singing school. If you want to come learn some of the specifics, that is at BCA right next door to City Hall, and that's at 6.
Very exciting, a perfect opportunity to learn more about Sacred Harp. And you can also, if you're still having trouble visualizing it, you'll be able to see some video on our website and on Vermont Public social media very soon after today's show. Thank you so much to Anya Skibbe and Anna Mays and our singers over there, Colleen Hayes, Galper Maika, Jim, Linda, and Dan Coppick, Nicandra Galper, and Sage Chase-Dempsey. It's been so fun talking with you both today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
And today's show was a team effort. It was directed by Aaliyah Papes, engineered by Peter Angish and Phil Edfors. Mike Dunn and Brian Stevenson captured video. John Ahrens created the idea for this show. He's our managing producer. Andrea Lorian and Daniela Fierro are our wonderful producers. Our theme music is by Myra Flynn. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch up again soon.